I'm Lauri Ann Turnbell, and I'm the Transportation Manager with Greater St. Albert Catholic Schools in Alberta, Canada. And we have about 6,000 students that are in our school division. We're a quite large division land mass-wise, so we cover the city of St. Albert, rural areas surrounding, the town of Morinville and the rural areas surrounding, and the town of Legal and those rural areas surrounding. And we bus about 1,800 students. I actually started as a school board trustee and was hired into the office to manage transportation in 2013 and have been there ever since, kind of managing the transportation department. So some of the challenges that we might face as a division as we grow and as our schools get full and you start to manage those new schools that get built, and we have had a few in the last few years, that's when I really start to see where challenges can come in of how do we manipulate the numbers of extra students? How do we draw that boundary line to make sure that we're evenly subscribing our schools? How do we manage to get our buses to those schools? And particularly if you're running tiered busing like we do, are they going to be a first tier, a second tier, or a third tier school? And how do you do that in your current routing construct without having to add more buses than what you really truly need? You don't want to add buses that are just doing these small little extra pieces. You want to use them to their full capacity. So you have to use the tools that are at your fingertips in order to be able to manage that. And that's certainly what we do. We have 2 very full schools right now that we're looking at, and certainly looking at boundaries and what does that look like going forward. And the blessing of the BusPlanner software is I can pull information that even our student information systems can't pull. They might be able to pull out our students, where their address is and those kinds of things, but I'm pulling those students out and their addresses, and I can see them on a live map. And I can kind of look and see where those kids are and where those lines should be drawn. We are all about student safety, so that's got to be number one. And then after that, it's how can we service those families who need transportation to get their children to and from school in an equitable way, and also in a timely manner. Do we want buses to be jogging all over the city and not being efficient in the way that we route them? How do we do that while still maintaining our budgets? Because ultimately we all know money drives this system. And if you don't have the resources, how do you manage that? And how do you get them where they need to go? For us in Alberta, certainly part of our student safety and our routing, et cetera, is also the weather that we can experience. So that can change drastically day to day. You can have a weather report at night that says everything's great, and the next morning you can have whiteout conditions, and you can have all kinds of drifting and whatnot, and you've got drivers who are trying to manage through that. So it's also being able to predict and deal with those last minute surprises that might come up. What led me into making a decision to make a switch was the reliability of the software. I really needed a software provider who could ensure that I was not going to be down for days, not just hours, not just minutes, days. Since I've come on to BusPlanner, I have never been down. Not once. So, the ability to have that reliability of that software, the ability to have a tech forward company who's going to help you get to what you need to fix or problem solve for is huge. I can't express to you enough how important it is that when you call your company who is providing you a software that you are using for everything you do in your day, you're answering it and you're getting a tech support person on the other end of the line. I call the tech support line. It tells me someone will be with me right away, gives me that little 10-second message. And before you know it, someone's on the other end of the line and they're fixing your problem, or they're helping you problem solve through the situation you may come to experience. So that is big. That is not the experience at other software providers. The implementation process for us was very good. It was seamless, and we were assigned somebody who was going to work with us for our implementation process. That person checked in with me weekly. So as we moved through and that person asked me questions about what we required, what we needed, what we, wanted to bring in, did we want to import our maps? Did we want to bring in our routes? Did we want to bring in our students? How did we want to do that? In the implementation process, they asked us to help them direct the way that they were going to go down the path. And that was great because it wasn't a one-size-fits-all. It was, what do you need at Greater St. Albert Catholic Schools? It was about what do you need and how can we make sure that when we hand you over this product, you can hit the ground running. And the whole way, my support person was there with me. So if I needed to call him, if he needed to reach out to me via email, we did it. And it was fantastic. It was marvelous. Within just 2 weeks of the school system, starting up again, we were feeling like we were pretty in control of things. Certainly we were able to then start to bring in some of those changes that we thought we needed. Once we knew that software was there and was running the way that we expected it to be, which it was, we were able to then start doing those bigger projects to start making those changes that were necessary to be successful in where we are today. I think it's very user-friendly. It's, I'll give you an example. So my assistant, when she first came into my office, she came from one of our contractors, came into our office, and I sat her down at the computer, and within 2 minutes, I had her putting children on the bus. It was easy. It didn't take, it wasn't like, oh, you need to do 7 stops to do it. No, it's find the student, go to the button, see if the stop is within a certain distance, and if it's not, here's how you create a bus stop. She was doing that by the end of the day. So I had her putting children on the bus, creating bus stops, and putting bus stops on runs before she left day one. I always say, workflow is my friend. Workflow is huge. But, let's start with, the routing and how that changes our operations and how we saw that kind of change what we did. The ability to see multiple runs on a screen at the same time. The ability to see that, oh, I didn't even realize we had the same stop for the same school on 2 different buses. What are we doing? Is there space on either bus? How can you create those efficiencies? So those came through that routing process and being able to really see things on the map and being able to drag and drop stops. I want to take these 3 stops. I'm going to select them on the map on this run, and I'm going to just say, put them over here, and the kids go right with it. But I think the biggest thing that changed our office environment and how we do business was workflow. The ability for workflow to take our calls down. At this point, within our first year, we lowered our calls by 85%. At this point in our process, after this many years, we're at about 95% less phone calls. Everything is done through workflow, from parents applying for busing, asking for address changes, have a route concern, a driver concern. They all come through our workflow process. We're able to respond to them with letters that are already pre-planned. So you're not having one router who's responding to a parent one way and another router responding a different way. They can all respond the same way, still with the ability to edit that letter if there's a few pieces you still need to add, because maybe you don't, they've asked a separate question and you need to add a bit more information. Well, my assistant now can put about 200 children on the bus in a day. That's from the time she receives the application into our email inbox till she has completed and responded back to the parent. The child has been routed to a stop. The fees have been placed online. Everything has happened. She can close that out and that child is ready to go on the bus. That's unheard of. It used to be, I remember a time when we were happy if we got 20 or 30 children on the bus in a day, just the process. And still at the end of it, you were unsure if your route really was going to meet the needs of the group. Back in the day when we had our past software, we used to have a Word document, and it had every stop, and you'd record what the stops were, and you'd have to go in and edit that Word document and then send it off to the contractor. And then when you sent that Word document off, you also had to send, well, we have a new child and they're at stop 3 and here's their name and address and phone number. And you had to provide all this information. Now with our web updates and our notifications, that automatically happens for us. So we only update once a week. So it's always on a Monday. Any changes we make are effective on a Monday. So what happens in our office is come 11:30 on Thursday, on Thursday morning, you have to have your request in by then if you want to have a change for the following Monday. Those changes are then communicated to our contractors Thursday morning via email. They get a text, an email, and it has everything that's happened on every route that they currently have with our division. We don't even have to think about it. They get the whole list. It says, oh, there's been a stop added to your run. There's been a child added to this stop. There's been a child removed here. They send that out to their drivers and we're done. It's going to happen on Monday. The parents get their email Friday afternoon. They know to check their emails every Friday afternoon to ensure that they have the correct time and stop location for Monday morning. We used to do that all manually. Now it's all done in the background of the software. That saves us hours of time in our day. We've cut with BusPlanner 12 routes over the years. So, we have a savings rate around that 680 to 700,000 just in routes alone. So that's not, I think about the time we save in the office and the extra hours we used to have to spend, etc. Those are over and above costs of that, but just sheer route costs, we're right in that 650,000 to 700,000. The ability to go in and actually see it in a GPS tool and look at that, that's big. We can do that in 30 seconds and say, oh, wait a minute. What are they doing? What's happening? Are they following the route as we've scheduled it? And that costs money. Every extra kilometer those buses put on costs you money, because whether you are having your own buses do that, you have fuel costs, you have man-hour costs, you have those. Or on the contracted side, like we are, our contractors start to raise their rates because their costs are going up. The drivers need to be driving the most efficient route possible to lower those costs, to lower the repair costs on the buses. I think that what makes BusPlanner really stand out overall with everything is just how tech forward they are. Nothing drives bus transportation people crazy more than just staying stagnant. We have to change with the times. We have to move constantly. We're always changing what we do. What you did yesterday is not what you're going to do today, and we expect our software to follow us. And that is the difference with BusPlanner. And when we make a request and we say, hey, have you thought about this? What about this? Can we do this? Is there something you can do to help us with this? I don't think I've ever heard no. It's been, yeah, we probably can do that. Let's look into that. We can give you some timelines of when we think we can do that. If I need something right away, I can request that and I can make that happen for my own board if it's something that I just need that's a one-off. So you can't get that everywhere. BusPlanner gives you that. They're there. They want to hear you. They want to move it forward. And that's the world to us. We need to have a software that moves with us, not holds us back. It certainly works for our parents, and I'll start there because they are the most important group that we are taking care of their children, the most important things that they have. And the ability for them to know where their child is going to get on the bus, for them to be able to see it on a map, for them to be able to log into a system and see their bus at any given time or moment is really big for them. It gives them their security to know that their child has scanned on the bus and has scanned off the bus at school. Yes, my child is on the bus because I can see those scans. They can communicate with us anytime, any place. They can be on their cell phone at work on a break and they can apply for busing. They can be after their midnight shift or their late night shift, and they can be emailing us through our system and letting us know what their challenges are, and we can respond to them. It's the responsiveness that we're able to do because of the software. It's the same with the contractor. The contractor finds that we are able to communicate so much more clearly and in a way in which they can then pass that on to their driver of the route. So it's saving them time as well, and their schedules are opening up because we're taking care of a lot of that stuff that they used to have to do. They used to have to take our emails and then bring them together in one email to send to the driver. Now it all goes together. Here's all the changes on this route. It allows them to kind of move that forward and save them time as well. When we talk about safety, when it comes to us, it's just the ability to be able to see where our buses are, to know they're driving the route as scheduled on the routes that we believe, or on the roadways that we believe are the safest, and to ensure that we can get in our division the most right-hand stops that we can do. And we do that because we can see the GPS, we can know what that timing is like. And the ability to edit runs on the fly like we can in that program by moving stops, wholesale shifts, moving them back and forth is a time saver to us, and it allows us to address those safety concerns quickly and efficiently. If you're having challenges in your current software, jump in. Jump and go forward. Call a few of the people that are on the software. That would be a great place to start.